Today's video, we're talking about squash shoes. It's not that there's sort of any reveal or any new squash shoe that I have on my hands or anything like that. It's just that at the end of the season, I find it's obviously a great opportunity to find good deals on squash shoes, squash rackets, and you'll find that there are a lot of specials on the market. That would obviously depend if you are able to get what you want in terms of sizes of squash shoes or the makes and models that you would like. From a manufacturer point of view, you'll probably find that as manufacturers are moving towards making newer models or introducing newer models, they will stop manufacturing the older ones or the ones which are sort of currently in season. And with that being said, you'll find that you'll get a huge opportunity to actually grab things at a discount, as I mentioned. I'm actually just going to go through some of the squash shoes that I've used probably between around September last year up until now. It is always a time somewhere around here, July, August, September, is a opportunity for me to actually go find good deals with respect to squash shoes. And it's probably something that you can do. It will depend if you can actually get something in your size. Although it is nice to wear the newer model and the newer type of squash shoes with the newer technology, sometimes you'll find that you can still get by with the old models, especially if you can get them at a good price. So if you can, maybe like I wish I did, but if you can obviously get a previous model and probably get 2 pairs of them, that'll probably be a great opportunity or a great discount that you can get for 2 pairs of squash shoes. I'm not too sure what the sign says, but obviously depending on how much time you spend on court, you might have to or should. It is recommended to probably change your squash shoes maybe twice a year, if I'm not mistaken, which I have done, and I'm obviously going to go through the shoes that I have used before. So starting off with the Asics Gel Blade 7. Asics Gel Blade 7 has been on the market for quite a while, and in terms of wear and tear on the shoe, it's actually not that bad. What I did find though was a issue around the heel. This sort of very steep heel, from what I understand, causes a lot of squash players some injury. And when I say causes it, I mean I was actually one of those. I would believe around 3 months into using the shoe, obviously I got the model from a previous year. I think 3 months into using the shoe, I started picking up Achilles problems or pain around my Achilles heel. And it was in speaking to some other players, or they actually informed me one about how often you should be changing your squash shoes, because it's just much cheaper to spend money on squash shoes compared to actually going for a replacement or injuring yourself and actually going to physio and the bio and rehab and all those things. So it's actually a lot cheaper to just replace your squash shoes. And they also mentioned the fact that they had experienced similar issues using these type of shoes. So I'm not too sure if it's been proven or it's out there or anything like that, but I'm just talking about my experience as well as the experience of about 4 or 5 other players, which moved on from the Asics Gel Blade 7 onto other types of shoes. At the time, I think when I was looking for squash shoes, and especially after I only had these for around 3 months, I moved on to a pair of other Asics. And I think, as you can see with the hoodie, I'm a big Asics fan. Doesn't mean I'm not sponsored by them, I'm not advertising for them, but I'm just a big fan of them with respect to their shoes. So when I played hockey and even when I run, I actually use my Asics shoes or buy Asics shoes. They are just a company which I have sort of trusted, but there will be a surprise obviously in the mix. With that being said, I moved on to what they call the Gel-Rocekt 10s. And the reason I did that was I had just obviously bought the Gel Blade 7s, and 3 months into the experience, I needed to change shoes, and these were a bit cheaper. They look pretty decent and they are decent shoes. There's nothing wrong with them, but I think in terms of price, they have obviously sacrificed with respect to the material that is being used. So 2 months into it, I found myself sort of wearing out, especially on the toe area of my left foot. And so for a shoe that has been used for 2 months, to actually start experiencing and seeing these type of, issues is a bit of a concern. And also, as you can see, not only in the toe area, but just around there's a bit of abrasion, some wear and tear. So as mentioned, you can see where they obviously made the shoe a little bit cheaper. I also found it retained a bit of its odor a lot in terms of the mesh material. There is mesh material obviously here on the lip area or close to the lip area, but not around the entire shoe. What that meant was that I needed to find an alternative because my squash bag started to smell a bit iffy and wonky. just in case you're out there looking for a solution for very stinky squash shoes. And I think any squash player will tell you how stinky their squash shoes are. There are things called Sneakerballs. So they're these little things, and basically you twist them for a bit of freshness. And all you have to do is basically take your squash shoe, pop it in there, and leave it in your squash bag, and it should at least smell a lot better. So in terms of breathability and material of construction for the shoe, that's where I was let down a little bit. And they served me well for, I guess, 3 months, up until the point that I realized that they weren't going to last the year. And I was lucky enough to go to Sports World while it was still around. And Uncle Derek, the person who owned the store at the time, mentioned the fact that I should probably try something else. He also had obviously these shoes in stock. So one, obviously it's a great opportunity to sell something that you have, but also I was also in the mood to try something because I wasn't too happy with the heel lift that I was getting from the Gel Blade 7. So what I did try was Mizuno's. So Mizuno W Phantom 2, and I won't lie, these have actually been a shoe that I have enjoyed compared to any other shoe outside of Asics. In terms of technology or what they have, they've obviously got a little bit more reinforcement with respect to material on that toe area. So you can even see that I've been using these since March, and it is now the end of July. So I haven't actually worn through the material. Everything still looks good. What I did like was also the fact that they had a bit of breathability. They obviously had notches and holes which are cut into the squash shoe itself, which obviously helped with circulation. Meaning I don't have to use as many sneaker balls as I did with the previous pair, and I just have to take my insoles out, and the squash shoes are smelling fresh, and my squash bag doesn't smell like sweat. So that's actually really nice in terms of what they had, and I really enjoyed the shoe. It was really sturdy, and it looks a bit different in terms of colorway, in terms of design. It's actually quite nice. They actually look different. Someone would always spot them out, and they would always ask what they were. I have seen other players play with Mizuno's actually, and that's also why I was actually very interested. It's a great shoe, to be honest with you, and the only downside is just that they're very hard to find in SA. That was the only reason why I didn't go get a second pair of these, because I just couldn't find any of them. And that seems to happen, obviously, as I mentioned, towards the end of the season, somewhere through the middle of the year. It's very hard to find squash shoes, so that's why I said if you have the ability and capability of doing it, find a shoe that you love and buy a second pair so that you can switch it up for the second half of the season. The only other thing I can say is that I did notice, and this is the reason why I need to change shoes, obviously, I am getting the same sort of wear pattern on the left shoe as I did with the Gel-Rocekt 10s. It is, I won't say this is a sign you will know when you need to start changing your squash shoes, but when you start feeling a few niggles in and around your foot, around your ankle, underneath it, you obviously might need to change your insoles, which I have already tried with these, or it also might be time to get new shoes, especially if you are in a season where you can get a good discount like we are in now. With that being said, it brings me to what I have today. And it's not a new model. It's actually been in season the entire time. As I did say, it's just that it was time to get a pair of shoes, and this was a perfect opportunity. Luckily, Gary from G Strings and Things had a pair available within my size or in my size. And it was just a perfect opportunity at that discounted price, as I mentioned, since we are drifting towards the end of the season. I was able to get a pair. So these are the Asics Gel Blade 8s. I do believe there might be a Gel Blade 9 coming out, but this is what they look like. I'm not too sure what technology is built into it, but a couple of things that I can definitely notice from the top of my head is obviously the fact that they're using flight foam. So that's obviously a lot of cushioning here, as you can see. What you'll see compared to the other Asics shoes is that this area where I normally wear is a lot thicker, and they've brought it up a lot more, so that more of the wear will happen here instead of on the material at the top of the lip or at the top of the shoe, the toe of the shoe. It seems like they are going a little bit wider at the balls of your feet to give you a little bit more stability as well. And there's a new X-guide system or X-guidance system, not too sure what that does, but yeah, I'm guessing they are a very popular shoe. From one thing that I saw at the Growth Point tournament, I did see a lot of players playing with this one, obviously in a different color scheme. I think I only saw one other player play with this color. It is unique, it's a bit different. I know the shoes are white. For some people that's a sort of a turn off, but yeah, even your Salmon shoes are white as well. All the top of the range Salmon shoes are white as well. So it's not like you need to keep them pretty. It's not like you're going to be running around in the mud anyway with them. They're only going to be on court, but they can get dirty. I do understand that. In terms of color, I'm quite happy with it. These are the same colors of my old high school, Queen's College. It seems like I can represent the school with the way I dress, at least. Very comfortable. They look very comfortable. I'll obviously try them on. I think if there's any other feedback or anything that's revolutionary that hasn't been mentioned on any other review. I'm pretty sure there are a ton of reviews on the Gel Blade 8s. I might mention it obviously in a future video. I only was able to get one pair of these. I will probably be looking for a second pair, and if I can't get a second pair, I'll probably move on to the newer model and see what they have and what the difference is between this model and the upcoming one. And yeah, I know that these will be very hard to get, so if you can grab a pair, I guess, of squash shoes now before the end of the season, I guess that's a big way of saving money, especially if you're going to buy 2 pairs, or you know that you go through squash shoes a lot. It's really important to take care of your feet. It's probably, except for a racket, and I'm sure that's a very debatable point of view, it's probably your most important piece of equipment at the end of the day, your squash shoe. So yeah, with that being said, I think that's all I have to say for today. Get your squash shoes where you can. Check G-strings and things, Gary's website, for any of these squash shoes or any of the squash shoes he has available. Maybe he has something in your size and he'll be able to deliver. That's about it. It's a lot of shoes for, I guess, just over here, but have mentioned the reason why. And that's about it. Take care. Cheers.